Happy Monday!
Happy Monday. How are you?
Good. We just finished spring break. So my kids are back in school. But I know that your kids are older.
But they still go to school. Alex is at college and Gianna still goes high school. So they'll be back
Okay.
they'll be back in their regular routine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I know you guys had fun at Universal Studios.
Yeah, we had a good time. We went to watch a Lakers game, which was fun on one of the nights, and they won. So it was kind of nice to go see the Lakers, and they won, and the
Who
whole
did they play
experience.
against?
They played against Clippers, I believe.
What?
So it was a good
What was the
game.
score?
I don't know. It was 100. I think. Oh no, actually, they didn't break 100. It was like 90 to. No, it was 100 and something to 90 something. My daughter almost hit the scores. I told her I would give her $100 if she can predict the scores. And actually was worried because it was getting really close. And I'm like, man, she's going to actually hit the scores. And my son's like, wow, she did really good. Like,
Yeah.
she got really close. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, man, she did. She was like 6 points away. And I told her if she hit
Yeah.
both scores, and she was 6 points away from hitting both.
Did you give her $50?
No, I didn't give her anything.
It was all or nothing, guys.
Yeah, no,
All
that's
or
how it is.
nothing.
There's no like second place, third place, runner-up trophy. Come on, like you got to win. You know, it's all about coming in first place. Just kidding.
Number one or nothing.
Or nothing. Yes. We got to train them right? Because that's how life is, right? You want
Winners
to cheap it out.
only.
Winners only. Yeah. So no, it was fun. And then after that, we went to Universal Studios the following day. So it was a nice 2-day spring break vacation I had with them. I really
Aw.
enjoyed that.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yes, it was a good time.
You're an awesome dad.
Thank you. It was there. I have amazing kids. I'm very fortunate to have such amazing kids, and it's a lot of work. Obviously, their mom puts in, so I have to give her credit because they're really good kids because of the parenting. So,
Aw,
yeah.
That's kind. Awesome. So what do we got going on for Monday market update?
All right. Well, we got a couple of things. I'm going to start with what we're seeing right now. I think everybody knows there's a lot of uncertainty. We see it in the news. We see it, and all of it has to do with what's going on in Iran. So we're about a month and a week in, and every time we hear the president come out, he came out last week, spoke about we're going to pull the troops in about 2 to 3 weeks, and the market like rebound again, right? So it's good to know why the market's moving because there's a reason behind it. And everything that's happening right now has to do with the war. So this is not a normal thing that you're seeing every day, guys. So don't be afraid of what's going on. And fear can keep you from making good decisions. So I just want to bring these up so that people see them. So right here, you're seeing gold prices. Let's start out with that. And as you can see, this is 1 week of what's going on.
Okay.
It went down and then it went up 3 days and then went down. So I want to show how everything's like a roller coaster right now. There's no stability, right? The next graph you're seeing is oil prices. Oil prices did the same thing. They were at $81, then they dropped on Tuesday, and then they went up on Wednesday and Thursday all the way over almost $100, and then they dropped on Friday. So again, a lot of uncertainty what's going on. Then we're seeing right here San Diego gas prices. I wanted to put this up because we're in San Diego. And I know that depending on where you go, it's so crazy. I don't know about you, but you go one gas station and prices are $7 and right across the street is $6.50 or $6.25. I'm like, what? Like, why don't they just all get together and say, look, let's just price things like the same. But then I think about what we do in our mortgage business and we're kind of the same, right? If you go to a bank or a retail store, you're going to get higher pricing because everything's built into their price. Their overhead, their buildings, they got W-2 employees, they have CEO, CFO, they got a bunch of people they got to pay with those mortgage rates, right? But when you go to a wholesale lender like us, Fiducia Home Loans, we don't have the same overhead. So a little throwing that out there. So our pricing is more competitive. Anyways, so with gas prices, I wonder if it's the same thing. It's like, why does one gas station across the street from the other gas station have such a higher price? And a lot of times those gas stations are the big corporate gas stations like Chevron or Mobil. And when you go to the mom and pop shops, they got like better pricing. So I would say check, there's an app out there, check to see what the lowest price gas station is and head over there.
What's that app?
I don't know, but I've seen it because they've been promoting it on Jam 90.3. I was listening to it this morning too on my way here. And so there is an app where you can actually see the lowest gas prices in San Diego. And we'll I'll look it up and we'll put it up here. Okay, the next graph I want to show you is what's going on with mortgage loan applications. Now, we're going to get into more of the mortgage part of this. Now, mortgage loan applications, this graph shows you the month of January and February. And as you can see, it went up. There was more mortgage loan applications in January. And then in February, it started dropping. And a lot of it was because we were barely entering into that war, right? And that's when the information was getting out. People were kind of slowing down, like, wait, what's going to happen? I think I work like that too when I'm going to make a decision. I don't know about you. I first want to gather data, as much information, before I make my decision of what I'm going to do, whatever I'm going to do in life, right? I don't want to just jump right into it, even though I am a spontaneous person. And I've done things like very spontaneous. One time I went, I was at work, and I went skydiving, just like that. That was crazy, right? Like I just looked at my phone. I'm like, I'm going to go skydiving today. And I took my lunch break and I went skydiving. Is that pretty crazy?
Yeah.
Okay, so no, this is a true story. I thought it was, but I don't know what I was thinking that day. I'm going to go skydiving, and I went skydiving by myself. Just like that. Yeah. So I think I could be a very spontaneous person, but I also like to make decisions with data, information. So I think looking at what's going on in our market and what's going on with interest rates and what's going on with loan applications is important. And that's why I'm showing you this, guys, because it's good to know what other people are doing so that you can position yourself to possibly make a better decision too, because not always what everybody's doing is the correct thing. I don't know. My parents used to tell me, so if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge?
Now I can see where you got that from.
Right? Well, I think I always said, I'm not going to be like my parents completely, right? And I know I'm pretty sure I told Alex that at one point or another, like, if your friends do this, will you do that? Anyways, here's the graph for March. Now, the application count for March is not out yet because we're just entered April, right? Okay. So we have, what I did is I put the last week of February and the first 3 weeks of March. And as you can see, it picked up the last month of February and then it dropped significantly. It dropped 10% on the second week of March and another 10% on the third week of March. And those are the weeks we were deeply in the war. Wow. Like, that's like the time that we were right in the middle of it, which we still are. But I think people really stepped back, and this loan application count that we're seeing in this graph is national. Like it's across the United States, right? So they track this. Fannie, Freddie Mac track how many loan applications they take every month. And then they could compare it to last month or the previous year to see if more applicants are applying or less applicants are applying.
Does it show like geographically which areas of the nation are the majority or?
That's a great question. I have never dug deep enough, but I'm almost certain I can get that information because if they have the count, they know exactly where people are applying.
Yeah, because it just begs the question, are there more homeowners in the West versus the Midwest? Because you have Texas and California, which are two very different, depending who you talk to now, okay? Because we all know Texas is its own country. We all know that.
Is that what Texans believe? I've heard that before, actually.
But I mean, it's just having a drop 10% week by week. I'm just curious to find out in what areas are we seeing the most counts for applications and how that affects San Diego County.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying because when I look at national average numbers, they don't apply to pocket cities like San Diego, San Francisco, New York, where typically we're like our own market. Really, we are, right? Like we are the most expensive city in the United States. And I don't know if that still stands today, but I know that was for sure last year that came out and that was no surprise, right?
I believe we're top 5 or top 10. Yeah. We're still up there.
Yeah. So when you're a city like San Diego, yeah, we're affected by everything that's going on national wise, But we have our own numbers that definitely are more driven for San Diego, because you can't compare, well, like, let's say, I don't want to pull out states, but there's certain states that just don't have the sales that we have, right? Or the volume, purchase prices and all that, yeah. And the economy that we have in California versus the economy in other states, it's just different. So that is a good question. And I think I'm going to start breaking these numbers down more for San Diego, because we need to know what's going on here. Because most of our clients, even though you have clients in other states like Texas, most of our clients are focused and buying in San Diego. And so I think it's important that we give them that information.
Yeah. So I just want to add too, because after doing my own research and doing my due diligence for today's YouTube video, it's important to also understand that the market is actually cooling right now, given all the stats that were provided about the war and how that's affecting inflation and gas prices and gold and whatnot. Right now, we're looking at real estate market actually sitting 50% longer than last year. So your typical average closing from contract to close is 30 days. We're now seeing 60 days after going on the market. Now, what does that mean for homeowners? To probably be a little bit more patient. And what this gives for buyers is a little bit more leverage in negotiating for seller credits, concessions, and whatever they might need for a rate buy down. What's your thought process on that?
I agree. I think I've seen some articles about properties being on the market 60 days. I think here in San Diego, I don't know what the national average number is, because I know there's some states that properties last 6 months to a year, right? But yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree that people are waiting. They're kind of sitting on the fence and are not making these decisions out of fear or not having all that correct information. I also believe that's a great opportunity, because I see this like a race. Now, we're all in a race to try to get that home. And now the 10% number, you got 10% less people in that race 1 week. Then the next week, you got another 10% less people. So if you stay in the race right now, you can potentially purchase and get leverage, which is important, right? Leverage can be everything in negotiation and doing the 2-year buy down, so that you can get into a comfortable payment where you can afford the property for the afford the property for 30 years, but get into a lower payment for the first 2 years to give you some flexibility.
You know what I love about our team is that we're so strategy driven, because it's neither a seller or a buyer's market in perception. It's more about how do you structure the right strategy to make this a win-win. I think that's key in negotiating in this time of market, in spite of the inflation and uncertainty that we're currently experiencing. Having a professional team like ourselves to sit down and have those belly-to-belly conversations with a financial diagnostic and actually tailoring something custom to winning the race, I think that's important.
I like that. And I think that's what we do with our clients. I think we're sincere, we're open, we're honest, we're professional, we have business ethics. And I'm not, this is something that's important to both of us, right? Because we're not here, this is not a numbers game. We're building relationships. We truly want to build long-lasting relationships with all of our clients. And they matter to us. And so being able to provide that information and give them as much information as possible so they can make an informed decision is important to you, it's important to me. One of the just kind of last thing, I want to provide rates for our viewers. One of the things that's really important to a lot of viewers ask me, well, what are mortgage rates? How do they work? So what you're seeing here is the 10-year Treasury note. The 10-year Treasury note is like the base rate. Let's look at it that way. This is the rate before the retail bank adds a margin to it. The margin being their profitability, right? Like being what they're going to charge on top of the base rate. So if you look at this 10-year Treasury note, you can see how it fluctuated last week. I mean, on Monday, it was 4.34. Tuesday, it dropped to 4.31. Then Friday, it went up to 4.32. Then it went up all the way to 4.36. And then it went down. So it's like a roller coaster, really, literally. I've seen this thing be flat. Like in times where things are very stable, it just remains flat. It doesn't change very much. This is what we're seeing week over week. Now, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, we were at 3.99. So over 1/4% to 0.5% increase really affects mortgage rates. So,
Wow.
so guys, so for example, if the rate is 4.34 and you add a margin of 2.5, then your final rate would be 6.8 something. And that's what the consumer would get.
So that margin that is being added on top, that is as an incentive for the bank?
Yes, well, that's the profitability, right? There's also something else called LLPAs, loan pricing adjustments. Okay. For example, if a borrower has a lower credit score, there may be a hit added to that base rate. If you're buying a condo versus a single family residence,
What do you mean a hit to that base rate? What does that mean?
So margins added to that base rate.
That's
so if you're,
why it
increases. Yes.
Got it.
So these LLPAs are part of Fannie, Freddie Mac. They're all built, and there's graphs that we get. So for clients that have 600, 620, 630 credit scores, for example, they each get different hits. If they're putting a down payment of 5% versus 10, 20, they're getting a hit.
So when you say they get a hit and that's an added margin placed on top of the base, that is actually saying that they're at higher risk, so we're going to demand for more profitability.
Yes, correct. So these LLPAs are already set in stone. You can't change them no matter where you go, right? So those are margins that are added on top of this 10-year treasury note. Then on top of that, at the end, the bank, the retail bank has to add their own margin because they're not making any money yet.
Yeah.
So let's say finally you get to a rate of 6.5%, right? You got the base plus all your LLPA hits, you're at 6.5. Now the bank has to add something on top of that so they can make some money.
What's that minimum?
What the bank
Anything?
adds, the bank decides what they want to add. If they want to be competitive, they may not add very much. If they need to have a bigger margin to break even, they might add a higher margin. So when you go to a bank or a big mortgage company, their overhead is added somewhere in there. They have to be profitable at one point or another.
So now Fiducia Home Loans doesn't have that overhead, correct?
Correct. We don't have this. We do have an overhead, but we don't have an overhead like a big retail bank.
Got it.
Right. The retail bank, without mentioning names, so just think about the big banks, right? They do have a lot more money. They have a lot of buildings, retail shops. They offer other services. For a long time, because I worked at the bank for 20 years, so I know exactly how a bank operates. For a long time, mortgage divisions were creating profitability for the bank because selling mortgages was great. There was a lot of profitability in it. But when things got really tight and there was less loan applications, less buyers, less people applying, less refinances, things got really tight. And the banks are still operating with thousands of locations where small wholesale lenders like ourselves don't have that overhead. So we can be more competitive. And as the consumer got more comfortable, I won't say smarter because they're smart. They just got more comfortable to thinking, I don't need a big brand name to get my mortgage done. I can go to my wholesale broker like Ruben, and he's going to take care of me, and they get that, and they're feeling comfortable with that, then they're getting better deals that way, right? So the market really shifted from a retail mortgage market to a wholesale mortgage market because people are looking for discounts. They're looking for better pricing. On top of that, realtors, partnerships, most realtors prefer working with a wholesale lender than a retail bank. Speed, availability, right? All these things are really important in this business. If you need to get a hold of a mortgage consultant on Sunday and they work at a bank, are they going to pick up the phone, right? If it's 9 o'clock at night, that's way after bank hours.
Yeah.
Are they going to reply to you? These are things that are very important to the consumer.
Absolutely.
and to the business partner, because
100%.
your client is calling you with a question and wants to know, and they're worried like, hey, I really need to figure out what this payment is,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to sign this contract until I'm really comfortable with. And you're calling your lender, and your lender's not picking up till Monday, and you want to submit that offer on Friday night. You just lost 2 days. You don't know how many other offers came in.
Right.
So I think business partners, realtors have shifted also, and also consumers are more comfortable now with working with wholesale lenders. And it's a win-win for them, honestly, because they're going to get better pricing. Our VA, FHA conventional rates, they're all very competitive across the board, but you do see a difference. Here's what I can tell you. On a retail, because I have retail partners that I work with for 20 years, and I still communicate with them. Some of them stayed at their banks, didn't go to wholesale mortgage lending like myself. When I talk to them, my pricing is typically 0.25% less, just without even trying to compete.
Wow.
Like, so they'll put out their pricing like, Ruben, what are you offering for a VA loan today? I'm like, I'm at 5.99. I'm like, oh, wow, we're at 6.25. Or like when rates were really low, like a month and a half ago, I'm like, I can get a 5.375. He's like, what? I can get 5.75. And this is without points, right? I'm like, well, actually, I can probably go lower if I need to, because I don't have the same overhead that you do, where you have to go ask permission from the bank. Can we compete with this pricing? Can you give me a pricing exception? I don't need to do that, right? Like a partner for my own business, I can make that decision on the spot. Time is money, and being able to make a decision quickly also means that the consumer, our client, can get their offer in faster, right? So don't focus too much. I definitely would say if you're looking at buying and looking at getting pre-approved, definitely consider a team like us, because we have the right chemistry and we have the right plan. But when you're out there shopping around, take the time to also compare, right? Don't make a decision immediately. And anybody that's out there looking at retail banking, I would really, really consider your options. Just because it's a big brand name doesn't mean you're getting the best deal. Look, we buy products all the time. I was talking to June about this, right? And we buy products all the time, and we pay for the branding. You know, the product could cost $100 to make, but when you go to the store and you get it in the branding, it could cost $1,000. That 90% markup, you know what it is? It's to pay for their marketing, to pay for their advertising, to pay for their CEO. You know, that's what they're paying for, that 90%. Why not cut out the markup and go directly to the source and get the product for the best price possible?
Absolutely. Happy Monday Market, everyone. Thank you, Ruben.
A lot of information, guys. And just follow us, share, and hopefully if you have any questions, reach out. All right.
Bye, everyone.